Welcome to my channel. Before we dive into today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to share could save you from hefty fines and serious legal trouble in 2026. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Picture this. You're driving down your usual route to the shops, doing everything you've done for the past decade, when suddenly you see those flashing blue and red lights in your rearview mirror. Your heart sinks. But here's the thing. You weren't speeding. You had your seatbelt on, and your phone was nowhere near your hands. So what went wrong? Well, the rules have changed, and if you're not up to date with Australia's new traffic laws coming into effect in 2026, you could be facing fines of up to $1,500 or even lose your license. And for our pensioners and seniors out there are specific changes that directly impact you, some good and some that require immediate attention. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's changing, why it matters, and how to stay on the right side of the law. Let's start with something that's going to affect absolutely everyone on Australian roads: the new mobile phone detection cameras. Now, we all know that using your phone while driving has been illegal for years, but enforcement has always been tricky. Well, not anymore. From March 2026, every state and territory will have rolled out advanced AI-powered cameras that can detect if you're holding your phone, even if it's just in your lap, or you're glancing at it at a red light. These cameras use high-resolution imaging and can see through your windscreen, regardless of weather conditions, tinted windows, or time of day. The fine for being caught: a whopping $1,200 and 5 demerit points. And here's the kicker: there's no warning period. The cameras are live right now in New South Wales and Victoria, and they're catching thousands of drivers every single week. Queensland, South Australia, and Western Australia are completing their rollouts by April. But it gets more specific. The new laws clarify that even if your phone is mounted on a holder, if you touch it for anything other than answering or ending a call with one touch, or using it as a navigation device, you're breaking the law. That means no scrolling through playlists, no checking messages at traffic lights, and definitely no social media. The government has made it crystal clear: if you need to use your phone for anything beyond basic functions, you must be parked legally with the engine off. Now let's talk about speed limits, because there are some significant changes coming that have caught many people off guard. Starting in July 2026, default speed limits in residential areas across Australia are being reduced from 50 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour, unless otherwise signposted. This change is being implemented to reduce pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries, particularly involving children and elderly residents. The research shows that being hit by a car at 50 kilometers per hour gives you a 50% chance of survival, but at 40 kilometers per hour, that jumps to 90%. The fines for exceeding these new limits are also being increased. Going just 10 kilometers over the limit in a 40 zone will cost you $380 and 3 demerit points, up from $280 previously. School zones are getting even stricter. The new laws extend school zone speed limit times by 30 minutes on either end of the current periods. So instead of the typical 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m., you're now looking at 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This extension accounts for early arrivals, after-school activities, and the increased number of children walking or cycling to school. Miss this change and you could be facing fines of over $600 during double demerit periods. Here's something that's particularly important for our senior drivers and pensioners. The new 2026 legislation introduces mandatory medical assessments for drivers over 75, and the assessment requirements are more comprehensive than before. Previously, many states only required a basic medical check, but now drivers over 75 must undergo a practical driving assessment every 2 years instead of every 3 years. This assessment includes reaction time testing, hazard perception evaluation, and a short on-road driving test with an accredited assessor. I know this might sound daunting, but here's the good news. The government is subsidizing these assessments for pensioners and healthcare card holders. What would normally cost around $350 will now cost just $50 with your pensioner concession card. The goal isn't to get older drivers off the road, but to ensure everyone's safety and identify if any support or vehicle modifications might be needed. Additionally, there's a new medical condition reporting requirement. If you're diagnosed with certain conditions including dementia, uncontrolled diabetes, epilepsy, severe vision impairment, or have experienced seizures or blackouts, you're now legally required to report this to your state's road authority within 14 days. Failure to report can result in fines and potentially invalidate your insurance if you're involved in an accident. Your doctor will provide you with the necessary forms, and the road authority will assess whether you need to undergo testing or if any license conditions should be applied. Let's move on to something that affects every driver: the new drug and alcohol testing procedures. Random roadside drug testing is being expanded massively in 2026, with mobile testing units increasing by 40% across all states. But here's what's really changed: the testing technology. New saliva testing devices can now detect a much wider range of substances and can differentiate between recent use and trace amounts that might be in your system from days prior. The detection windows have been refined, which is actually fairer for drivers, but the penalties have also increased substantially. A first offense for drug driving now carries a mandatory 12-month license suspension, up from 6 months, and fines starting at $2,000. There's also a new zero-tolerance policy for any level of cocaine or methamphetamine detection. For alcohol, the legal limit remains 0.05 for full license holders and 0 for provisional and learner drivers. But enforcement is getting much stricter. Refusing a breath test now carries the same penalties as a high-range drink driving offense, which means automatic license suspension and court appearance. The message from authorities is clear: there's no excuse and no escape. Parking rules are also seeing a major overhaul, particularly in urban areas. Disability parking enforcement is being revolutionized with new automatic number plate recognition systems that cross-check vehicles parked in disabled spots against the National Disability Parking Permit database. If you're parked in a disabled spot without a valid permit, or if the permit holder isn't actually in the vehicle, you'll receive an automatic fine of $650. This is being done to crack down on the rampant abuse of disability parking spaces that has made life difficult for people who genuinely need them. For legitimate permit holders, there's good news. Permits are now being standardized across all states and territories, making it easier when you travel. General parking fines are also increasing. Parking in a no-stopping zone will now cost you $450, up from $300. Parking too close to an intersection, blocking driveways, or parking on nature strips will incur fines between $250 and $400, depending on the violation. Now, here's a change that's going to impact a lot of families and anyone who transports children: the new child restraint laws. From September 2026, children under 7 must be in an approved child restraint appropriate for their age and size, but the definition of appropriate has become much more specific. Children under 6 months must be in a rear-facing restraint. Children aged 6 months to 4 years must be in either a rear-facing or forward-facing restraint with an inbuilt harness. Children aged 4 to 7 must be in a forward-facing restraint with an inbuilt harness or an approved booster seat. The change is that children aged 7 to 16 are now also required to use an approved booster seat if they're under 145 centimeters tall, regardless of age. This is a significant extension of the previous rules. Non-compliance carries a penalty of $600 and 3 demerit points, and the driver is always held responsible. Seatbelt laws are also being tightened with new technology. Some newer vehicles are now equipped with seatbelt sensors for all seating positions, and from 2026, if these sensors detect an unbuckled passenger, the vehicle information may be transmitted to authorities in the event of an accident or traffic stop. While this isn't mandatory reporting yet, it establishes the infrastructure for future enforcement. The fine for unbelted passengers has increased to $490, and both the driver and the unbelted passenger can be fined. Let's talk about something that's been controversial but is now law: the new roundabout and intersection rules. There's been confusion for years about indicating at roundabouts, and the new laws make it absolutely explicit. When entering a roundabout, you must indicate left if you're taking the first exit. You don't need to indicate when entering if you're going straight ahead, but you must indicate left as you pass the exit before the one you intend to take. If you're turning right or making a U-turn, you must indicate right upon entry and then indicate left as you pass the exit before your intended exit. Failure to indicate correctly at roundabouts is now a finable offense at $230 and 2 demerit points. Police are specifically targeting this in 2026 after studies showed that incorrect indicating at roundabouts is a major cause of collisions. For motorcyclists and cyclists, there are important new rules around filtering and lane positioning. Motorcycle lane filtering is now permitted in all states when traffic is stationary or moving at less than 30 kilometers per hour, but it's only allowed between lanes 1 and 2. And motorcyclists cannot filter to the front of the queue at intersections with traffic lights unless there's a designated motorcycle waiting area. The fine for illegal filtering has increased to $450. Cyclists now have new protections, but also new responsibilities. The minimum passing distance when overtaking cyclists is now standardized at 1 meter in zones up to 60 kilometers per hour and 1.5 meters in zones above 60. Drivers who don't give adequate space face fines of $490 and 2 demerit points. However, cyclists must now use cycle lanes where they're provided, and riding 2 abreast is only permitted if they're not impeding traffic. Cyclists who violate these rules can be fined up to $200. Here's something crucial for anyone who tows a trailer, caravan, or boat. New weight and loading regulations. All trailers must now display their loaded weight capacity on a clearly visible plate, and random roadside weight checks are being increased by 30%. Overloading your trailer by more than 10% will result in an immediate fine of $800 and possible vehicle defect notice requiring you to unload before continuing. If you're towing and your load isn't properly secured, you're looking at fines up to $1,000. And if anything falls from your vehicle causing a hazard or accident, you could face criminal charges. Insurance implications are also changing. From 2026, insurance companies can access traffic violation records more easily, and any violation resulting in 3 or more demerit points must be declared when renewing your policy. Failure to declare can void your coverage. Additionally, if you're involved in an accident and found to be in violation of any of these new laws, even if you're not at fault for the collision itself, your insurance payout may be reduced or denied entirely. Now, let's circle back to something specifically important for seniors and pensioners: the new Medical Exemption and Modification Support Program. If you're over 65 and require vehicle modifications due to age-related conditions like arthritis, reduced mobility, or vision impairment, the government is now offering grants of up to $3,000 to help with the cost of hand controls, swivel seats, grab handles, and other approved modifications. You can apply through your state's road authority with a letter from your GP or specialist. This is a fantastic initiative that helps keep senior drivers independent while ensuring they have the proper equipment to drive safely. There's also a new road rule app being launched nationally that provides real-time updates on rule changes, personalized reminders based on your vehicle type and license class, and practice tests to help you stay current. For those less comfortable with technology, printed guidebooks are being mailed to all households, with large print versions available for seniors upon request. So, what should you do right now to prepare for these changes? First, read through the official guidelines from your state or territory road authority. Second, if you're over 75, book your practical assessment early as wait times are already extending to several weeks in some areas. Third, check that your vehicle complies with all the new requirements, especially if you transport children or tow trailers. Fourth, consider taking a defensive driving refresher course, many of which are free for seniors. And finally, update your insurance company about any changes to your circumstances or driving patterns. These new laws might seem overwhelming, but they've been introduced with one goal: saving lives. Australia loses over 1,200 people every year to road accidents, and thousands more are seriously injured. These changes target the biggest risk factors based on years of research and data. Yes, there are more rules and higher fines, but there's also more support, better infrastructure, and clearer guidelines than ever before. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family, especially those who might not be aware of these changes. Drop a comment below letting me know which change surprised you the most, or if you have any questions about how these laws might affect you specifically. And remember, knowledge is your best defense against fines and accidents. Stay safe out there, drive responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss important updates that could affect your life on the road. Until next time, take care and happy driving.